immortal souls, right? So that information, now I had studied lots of stuff before. I had always studied everything, and I was, you the typical, and I'm from New York too, if that makes a difference, but very much of a go-getter. And you name it, I studied it and everything, but I was in this very difficult relationship. And so I came to the Brahma Kumaris and I started meditation, and I started meditating, but the environment of my home was not very conducive to meditation because the person that I was married to was very negative about the meditation, very negative about what I was doing, anything that I was going to change. This person was not very happy. So what I did was I started meditating in my closet. And I'm saying that because for two reasons. One, because I want to share that it was like a humble beginning, in a sense that I had to create a safe space anywhere I could. And I created a safe space in my closet where I could be alone and I could feel safe, and I could try to connect with God and be in that safe space. And I feel, and of course, everyone's mind as they're listening to this this class, you're all thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I do to be more positive? And the thought I had was, first, create a safe space for yourself. Safe physical space, safe space of time for meditation, reflection, self-care, and then safe place in your mind. And Louise was mentioning before about self-criticism, and we can talk about that a little bit more in a few moments. But in the beginning, just to go back to the example, I used to meditate in the closet, and for a long, long time, that was the only safe space I had, the only safe time I had. And I can tell you from building up from that, from zero, from ground zero, I was able to build up the confidence in myself to make the kind of changes that I needed to make authentically and powerfully in my life. I was able to end that marriage peacefully and generously. There was no animosity. I was able to do all these things that I would have never been able to do because of fear, because of, whatever personality traits I have had in the past, maybe angry or resentful or things like that. But I had learned from learning about spirituality how not to be like that. And then little by little, the situation began to clear and clear and clear. And so my feeling and my experience is that if we start with ourselves and we start with a safe place and we start with connecting and reflecting and loving ourselves and connecting with a higher power, meaning there is a benevolent source that I am safe with, that I can stay with until I feel strong enough. And along the road, obviously I don't leave God, but that I feel strong enough to make these changes. And when you make the changes, then they last, because you're coming from your heart. You're coming from an authentic place of power and love.
So I'm glad you came out of your closet, and I would assume that your area for meditation grew a little bit.
Well, I'll share. Well, I actually got remarried, and my husband is also in meditation in the Brahma Kumaris, and we did build a home and a center. So now the meditation, I'm living in it. So it isn't, I'm no longer hiding in the middle of something. And actually, this could be a metaphor too, right? So rather than feeling like I'm at the victim and hiding in the middle of this whirlwind of negativity and stress, I'm now actually living in what my heart created.
Yes.
And it has to do with service too. So these are things that we all can do, but we have to start where we have to start, because I'm sure we've all had the experience of making a change, and then, or have we done this, like we try to make a change and then we don't keep up with it, right?
Yeah.
We try to make the change and then we don't keep up with it. So then I failed, and I got to go find something else. And then, it's so demoralizing to keep trying to change something and not being able to do it. Yeah. So I really feel that we have to start with ourselves. And so for those of you who are thinking, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Okay. There are a couple of things that I can say right off the bat that we can do. Morning meditation. This is very simple. Morning meditation. Take out a cup few minutes for yourself every morning. And that has to be it's like we brush our teeth. We wouldn't go a day without eating, or we wouldn't go a day without, you don't go a day without your morning meditation. It's just as important, if not more important, because the mind needs that priming. It needs the silence, it needs the care, it needs the training and the what's the word? Like the setup. It's like setting it up for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. The second thing is some kind of study and some kind of goal setting for the day. So some kind of study. So in Brahma Kumaris, we do study every morning, and we study, or you can look at the Bible or Bible verses, whatever you think works for you. You can look and read something that will be inspiring, something inspirational and spiritual, and then create a goal for yourself based on that for the day. So that, like, you have an aim, you have a mission for the day. And then at the end of the day, you can see how you did. And then, of course, the third thing, I wrote a couple of things. And then the third thing would be company, coming to classes like this, making sure you have good company and others that feel or are trying to do the same thing you're doing.
Can you share with us a goal that you set for yourself, and one example of how you did the second thing, how you managed to set a goal for the day in your early morning meditation and fulfill that goal?
Yes. Okay. So right now, my experience is that I'm setting mental goals, because I feel from my experience that if I'm mentally strong, my experience is the day goes fine. If I'm not mentally strong, old personality traits start coming up, like the one that reacts, the one that gets upset, the one that feels stressed, the one that feels like overwhelmed, the one that feels, like a martyr, like I'm doing everything and why isn't he doing it, or why isn't she doing it? And, all these old ones start coming up. And what I've noticed is that those are personality traits that come up when I'm not mentally strong or powerful.
Mhm.
So it's my job to maintain my mental power. And we call it a stage, like you maintain your stage of spiritual awareness, let's say. So today, I was reading about, or what I've been studying lately is how to, I'm trying to put it into words, just a second. So now I got to put it into my mind what I've been doing all day. Okay. So what I've been doing today, I'll tell you what I've been doing today. What I've been doing today is trying to be a perfect mirror for everything that I see, hear, touch, everything that's happening. I'm just becoming a perfect mirror, meaning I don't have any feelings about it at all. I'm not remembering it at all. I'm not making any judgments about it at all. I have no emotions about it at all. It's just happening. And it's going and it's floating and it's fine. And what I've noticed is when I do that, I feel very happy.
So you're talking about a detachment from what's going on. Am I getting that right?
Yeah,
Like
I'm calling it a
you're
mirror.
watching it like a
I'm
movie?
calling it, well, yeah, it could be that, but I'm calling it a mirror, like, because I'm in it. For me today, I'm using the term mirror because I still want to be part of it. See, sometimes when we use the word detached, something inside feels like, I don't like that word, because we felt so alone and so isolated already. This is just my thoughts, but
Yeah.
it is detachment. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. But the way I'm using it like I'm here and I'm interacting, but I'm just letting it be exactly what it is. So you could call it acceptance. We were talking about tolerance before. So you could be like, it is exactly the way it is. I'm not going to allow the personality trait of judgment, or the personality trait of fear, or the personality trait of worry or guilt, or letting something that's happening now remind me of something negative from the past. So I'm not allowing any of that to happen, because it's just a mirror. It's happening. I'm moving through the
I
day.
see.
And
Yeah.
I found that I feel really happy, and
Mhm.
happy in a peaceful way, happy from the inside. And that's sustainable. I want to share. That's sustainable.
Yeah. So I would say, to translate in my head, it comes out, instead of reacting immediately, impulsively, which is very often fear-based, I'm choosing to have a higher thought and respond with thought, respond with care. The response could be silence. The response could be words, but it's not going to be that fear-based impulsive thing or some base thing. So we're getting back to what you were talking about having that the courage to not blurt or not push someone away in that moment.
It's tricky. It's tricky. I'm not going to make it sound like it's easy. It's not easy. And it is, we have momentum of all these personality traits, and also the personality traits have some juice to them. Like I feel temporarily powerful if I'm right that everybody else is wrong. There is, we have to be honest, because if we want to change something, you have to be honest about how it is. And how is it when I feel like I'm right? Something inside feels good, but it doesn't really feel good. Anything that makes me feel separate really isn't making me feel good, if I'm being honest. So what I would like to do is I would like to be able to have an open heart and to be able to feel happy and to be able to feel positive, right, about things. But I want to say that not maybe before we feel positive, because sometimes they used to talk about, positive affirmations and, practice being happy and things like that. And I used to have a really hard time with that, because I would be like, how can I be happy when all this is going on? How can I be happy when all this has to be fixed? I have to work. I have to pay attention. I have to fix something. I have to, so for those of us who maybe have like this action oriented personality, if you just tell me, okay, have a positive thought, it's like, it's not going to do anything for me.
Right.
But what really did help was to, over time, build up that safe place, the loving place inside myself. And then I had the courage to try to go beyond those personality traits, those very strong, negative, judgmental, fearful personality traits. It's not easy to go beyond them. They feel comfortable, they feel righteous, they feel like common. Everybody else has them too. I feel justified if someone's being a certain way to me. Maybe I feel justified in being negative back. Those are all things that need to be looked at, and they don't go away just by wanting them to go away. You need power. You need what we call yoga power, when I'm going to say spiritual power. You need that to get over those things, but we can do it. And love is the way to do it.
Yeah. Before we go further, I do want to remind the audience that we do have a Q&A at the end of the session. So feel free to put any questions you may have for Dr. Ann or comments in the chat box or in the Q&A. Okay, so love is the answer, but it has to start with self-love. So for those of us who may have grown up not trained to do that very well, feelings of low self-esteem, how do we build that? How do we build that when the world is saying nothing's good? Mm.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about it, because anybody can come out and say, oh, just think positive. Well, if I could just think positive, I would have been perfect, 25 years ago or whatever. It doesn't work like that, at least in my experience. So what I'm just looking at the little comment there, but from Orlando, but it doesn't work like that. So how do we begin to feel love for ourselves? And I'm going to say you don't right away. But this is why I feel like thinking about God can be very helpful if we understand what the way God really is versus maybe how we thought he was. So if we can create a perfect being in our minds, so we say God is a point of light, right? God is a point of light. And this is different than maybe what we learned before. So if I can't think of myself as loving, if I can't think of myself as spiritual, if I can't think of myself as good or powerful, unlimited, or, worthy, then maybe I can start by creating in my own mind, waking up to or inviting God, the Supreme Soul, my higher self, or the universe, or some unlimited benevolent power into my own mind. And when I do that, then I'm not alone. And I can start to maybe open my heart just a little bit. Okay, I don't believe I'm good, but I do believe God is good. I don't believe I'm worthy, but if God is with me, there must be something good here. I don't believe that I can be happy, but I know He is blissful and peaceful and loving. And just that, it's like I'm opening myself up to that relationship. And when I do that, maybe I don't believe in myself right away, but if I can believe in God, if I can believe in the supreme soul, or if I can believe in my higher self as like a perfect being, we need that. We need that because look at what's going on around us. Even our own body is not healthy. Like you can't depend on anything. You can't depend on wealth. You can't depend on, you really can't depend on anything in this physical world because it changes. It changes and it passes away. Everything passes away. But what doesn't pass away? Me. I'm always
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Whether I'm 3 years old or 30 or 50 or 100, I'm still me, right? The body may change, but I'm still me. So that one that doesn't change, that one that's here, that presence, the soul, me, the soul, I need company. That one needs company, but that has to be God. So you see how like the conversation changes now a little bit? It changes from the physical world and everything that's going on to a more subtle internal conversation. And that is the beginning of experiencing myself as peaceful, experiencing myself as worthy, as loving, as powerful. And I'm not alone, never alone.
So it's wonderful to think that way because the love of self has to come first. And whatever your God looks like or whatever you believe, I know so many religious people who don't have the peace you're talking about. And I know some people who don't particularly think they believe in very much, but they have something comfortable in themselves. So it's always a journey to be able to choose. And the linchpin now is spirituality in this conversation. And you put it so well that, but we're a minority on the planet, aren't we? I mean, there are lots of religions and things, but the idea of it being an incognito, internal thing, and we can deal coming from a place of believing that God has our backs. I grew up with a punishing God, and I had to change that idea. And I found that when I took the focus off my self centered fear, my fear is always for me. And it seemed almost like a trick when I turned it around and did something for someone else, or considered someone else, or had compassion for someone else, or the phone rang and I'm helping someone else. All of these things help me get out of my own old, I forgot the word you used before, but my way of thinking, my attitude, and to shift into proactive rather than the victim of anything, whether it's COVID or a person you're living with, you know? So these are wonderful tools. So you're saying we can change the frame on the picture.
Yes, and I just thought of another example. One of my favorite stories from my own situation, and I'm really sharing like from my own life. That this is really what happened. When I was still in the other marriage, I was making dinner and my parents were over, and I had been doing my meditation. I had been really building up a little seed of confidence, inside myself spiritually. And I also, one other point I want to make, we talk about in spirituality, we talk about the laws of karma, the law of action and reaction. And there's this idea that once we start a spiritual journey, we don't want to make any more mistakes. Like we don't want to keep on, what you want to draw a line in the sand with yourself. Okay, so now I know that I don't want this continue. So I have to draw a line of discipline with my behavior now because I have to give something in order to get something, right? You gotta change something. You gotta be willing to give. So I was making dinner one time and I was stirring this food. And I remember my parents were over and my husband was in the other room, and I was stirring the pot and I thought to myself, I just want him to leave tonight. I just don't want to deal with him. We were in the process of splitting. It was just whatever it was. But in the moment, I just felt like I wanted him to leave. I just didn't want. But I knew, now this is important that what I'm sharing here. I knew that to get mad at him, to ask him to go, to, make a big deal or something like that would have been wrong. So it would have been wrong to act like that. So this is where we're talking about how to be positive, right? How to be positive versus doing what you would have done in the past. So I remembered God. I remembered, we call him Baba, like dad, so I remembered Baba and I said, Baba, I said, I am committed. I am not going to do anything wrong. So now you have to get him out of here. And I felt it so purely in my heart, like that I wasn't going to do anything wrong. So it's like I had a right to ask, like, and I'm telling you, 3 minutes later, I promise you, this is the truth. He walks out of the room and says, no, I think you want to get some space. I'm going to go to the movies. And he left. And that was such a victory, if you want to call it a victory, but it was such a confirmation that my feelings mattered. And that my feelings, and I didn't have to be hurtful in order to take care of my feelings. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to be mean or even say anything, really. I just had, well, maybe I would have in another situation, but in this situation, I didn't even have to. The pure thought and the pure feeling and me being authentic with how I feel and what I really needed and what I really wanted was enough to change the situation. So to me, that's like a magical story, because all I did was make the commitment that no matter what, I wasn't going to do anything wrong anymore. So this is where karma comes in here too. So you want to know what to do. Well, what to do is, once you decide that you want to change something, you need to start changing your behavior in that situation, making a commitment not to be negative, even if you just have to be quiet and leave, or don't create any more negativity in the situation. So that is one thing you can do. And then in your heart, keep building up and keep remembering what you want to change and keep remembering your aims and your goals.
Yeah.
And my experience is they will come true. If you have a pure wish that's coming authentically from your heart and it's taking care of yourself and you wish no harm for anyone else, it will come true.
Yeah, and I'm assuming our audience is open to these kinds of thoughts, that when we simply have a pure motive and ask, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. I got my first COVID vaccine after spending an hour and a half online, and I was refusing to get upset about not having the vaccine, and it was getting impossible. And I called all the inside numbers. And it's 1:00 in the morning. And all of a sudden, I just said, Baba, I'm done. I want to get the vaccine. I had turned off the computer already. I turned off the light. I stood up. Something made me go back to that computer. And I got my vaccine at Walgreens. There was an appointment there after an hour and a half of looking. And I had been on the phone with Walgreens that afternoon. Nothing. It was a small, but it was such an uplifting, because I could feel my body surrender 100%. It was like when I went under anesthesia 9 years ago for some surgery, and I had the experience of surrendering, because I am a controlling kind of person by nature originally, and to let go and just say, okay, you're going to cut my throat now, and I'm going to let you. You're not a butcher, you're a surgeon. And it was just an amazing thing to let go and let God run the surgeon. Let God help the surgeon. I have to not be there. So these are just amazing things from big to small. And I find that the more I study here, the more I learn. You mentioned education before, studying and working it. The more I do, the more the miracles, big and small, keep coming. And you're saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add one
Beautiful.
other thing. I mean, we're saying God and Baba and stuff like that. If that doesn't work for you, it's okay. You can believe in karma and it'll still work.
Mm.
Just
Could you
believe it.
explain? Yeah, maybe some people
Yeah.
don't exactly know what karma is.
Yes.
What do
Well,
you think?
that's a huge topic, but in this case, what I'm saying is,
Mhm.
like, let's say if you don't want to believe that it's like God in charge, let's say that you believe that you can believe that maybe your negativity has created a certain energy in this situation. And that's why it looks and feels the way it does. In order to change what you want to change, the energy has to change. So that means I have to think differently, act differently, and have a different attitude, a different aim, a different goal for the situation. So the first thing I need to do is stop doing what I was doing. So when I stop it, like for instance, if I, again, I'm back to that relationship, but one thing I decided was no matter what this person did, I was not going to get angry. I was not going to get angry because I wanted to be free of that situation. I know that's like a sticky one, so forgive me, but it's a real one. I mean, it's a big one, right? It's a big one to have it be in a marriage and to have it not be okay and to try to get out of it is a big deal. A lot of us have had to go through that. So um, to know and to promise yourself. So if the God thing isn't going to work for you, just promise yourself, I understand that I created this. I understand that it's my responsibility. I made the choices. I did this. It's my, maybe COVID wasn't our fault, but whatever your dependencies are your responsibility, right? So whatever your issues are, whatever you're reacting to is your responsibility, perhaps, right? So if I decide, okay, now I'm going to approach this in a different way. So I'm going to promise myself that no matter what happens, I'm not going to act this way. And I want to say start small. Start with an anthill, not with Mount Everest. Because if you start with a really emotionally charged thing, it's much more difficult than if you start with something more simple. Like let's say at work, or let's say one thing that I know a lot of people do is they're watching the news a lot. You know, although I know some people are watching the news a lot, and I find that um, I don't want to say it's bad, or I want to say take a look at how you feel while you're watching it and see if that's something that you want. See if that's congruent with being positive or being. I had something today in class. We were talking about changing, talking about this exactly. And I was sharing that if you can't change the behavior, sometimes the behaviors are so ingrained, right? You're reacting before you even know it. Okay. If you can't change the behavior right away, at least start using your intellect to ask yourself if it's working for you or not. And have enough room for yourself. This is where the self-love comes in. Have some room. I'm not going to stop it right now. You know, even in psychology, they used to say, as long as you're not really hurting anybody, nobody's really hurting anybody, right? But I'm talking about these negative patterns that we do, right? That maybe we can't stop. So if you if you can't stop it, but you're watching it. Now, this is where you were talking about being detached. Just
Attached.
watch it, but tell yourself, I can't change it now. I'm not going to try to change it. I'm just going to watch it.
Mhm.
Watching it feels safer than changing it. You see what I
Yes.
mean? So if you can't get in there and change it right away, if you're too scared or if you can't seem to change it, make a difference behaviorally, then just say, okay, I'm not going to change it now. I have the aim to change it in my heart, but right now it's too charged and I can't do it. So I'm going to pull back and I'm going to watch.
Yeah.
Just observe. I am not changing anything. I guarantee you, even that will begin the process of building up a little power inch by inch to be able to eventually let go of whatever
Beautiful.
the negative patterns are.
Yeah. I want to go back for a second to the closet. That's just an
Okay.
image that stayed with me so strongly. And then you came out and you are in your home.
Yes.
And I lived with someone for 38 years who is not a Brahmin, but he's a sweet soul. And I've talked about him before, but when COVID happened, I had to create my own closet because I needed a safe space. And the Brahmins gave me that safe space. But within my home, you mentioned not watching the news so much. We had rules that I imposed very gently because my husband is very upset with world situations and the degradation in the world. He's got all the right virtuous things going, but he's not himself part of our group or religion to say, per se. So we had rules. You come home all day long, you're dealing with explaining to people while they're wrong, politically and whatever, not in our home. And our home became a haven. I watched the Capitol get assaulted. I am informed and squinting for 5 minutes in the morning, maybe not. And I don't engage in having to win a political argument because I understand that I need to protect my peace, P-E-A-C-E. I have to. And you know what happened? It's been over a year. It's contagious. Our lifestyle has slowed down. I was working in the house. He was going out, coming home. I became the haven to the point where he wrote me a beautiful birthday card that said I was his anchor. Now, I wasn't always anybody's anchor. I had quite a turbulent young adulthood, telling everyone what to do and how to do it. So finding the peace that was always within me, buried during a COVID pandemic, like the flowers come up, you know, they know what to do. I find if I'm quiet, I know what to do. If I'm silent, if I go to a higher place, and it's contagious. It's more contagious than COVID. And it was contagious in my own home. And I needed what you were talking about before, just to come full circle. I needed the self-esteem and the courage to believe that I could change the atmosphere in my own home. And that's with all the ways you've been saying, you know.
Isn't it funny how we like you're saying it now, and I can totally relate to what you're saying. But isn't it funny how we would think that we wouldn't be able to do that in our own home? Like we're so hurt and so afraid, right?
Oh,
The
yes.
thought of even doing it. So my feeling is to just have compassion, for yourself. That
Yes.
the reason that things are not the way you want them is not because you're a failure. And it's not because everybody else stinks. And it's not because whatever our personality wants to blame, or whether it's myself or anything. It's because I am feeling beaten down. I am feeling not strong enough. I'm not feeling confident enough to make the changes that I need to make. And guess what?
Yeah.
You can get confident enough. You can become self, you can develop self-respect to the point where you can make these changes. And they're not like, you know, I can't speak today. They're not like really big changes. They don't have to be huge, and simple changes. Simple changes. And what happens? Everybody becomes more peaceful. The home environment becomes more peaceful. And then the appreciation starts coming back. And that's a validation also. You're not doing it for that reason. But when others begin to change, and this is what we were talking about yesterday, and I guess might be a good way to kind of come closer to the end of the conversation, that you don't have to worry really about helping anyone else, because as we get more and more peaceful and more and more powerful, others begin to get it. And they are so grateful because then they get it for themselves. It's not
Yes.
me trying to change you or me trying to figure out how to make you like I want you, all that other stuff. We're very familiar with that stuff. But what we're talking about now is that safe, quiet, peaceful self that wants to live and express and be happy in
Yes.
relationships, not alone, in relationships, in the world, and we can do it. And God
Yes.
can help us. And if you don't like the God thing, do the karma thing. It'll work,
Yeah. And to be respectful of someone who is feeling out of control, depressed, anxious. to just know that you can model, I can model a different way and have a little taste. Or you walk around long enough 24/7, you're alone with another person or maybe a bunch of, and you can just change the feeling. But it's got to come from an authentic, you use that word, yes, it's got to come from a genuine, authentic place. And that place quite often is buried by fear. And it does take courage to believe you can do it. But once you do it, see, once I do something like that, no one can take it away from me. It's mine forever.
What you just said is the essence of the whole thing, and the way I see it. What you just said is the essence of the whole thing. Right now, our authentic happiness and peace and our real wishes and our real self, let's say, is buried under personality traits, judgment, fear, old ways of thinking, old
Sure.
belief systems, and things, educations, and things that we learned over the years. And
Mhm.
our real self, the one, the innocent one, the pure one, the one that just wants to be happy and just wants to be with everyone, is there.
Yes.
It's there.
Mhm.
We just need to be patient and kind and loving. And I find that loving, and give yourself so much room. If you take on a spiritual aim or an aim to change this, that what we're talking about right now, give
Mhm.
yourself so much room. This is why I recommend working with God, because has unlimited room.
Yeah, that's true.
And and if I can't give myself unlimited room, I need an unlimited someone. Or if you want to use karma, that can be like
Mm,
a law, like it's unlimited. It's going to work because it's unlimited.
that's beautiful.
But it will also, if you have that one. So if I'm working with the karma, I can make my perfect self the one that I'm looking up to, or some kind of unlimited principle or being that I
Yes.
can look at and hold on to, because I need
Beautiful.
room. I need room.
Yeah.
There's been so much judgment and so much um, unkindness and
Mhm.
coldness towards myself and then towards others. But anyone that's on the spiritual path or
Yeah.
interested in spirituality probably isn't in the habit of being negative overtly, but
Mhm.
internally, I think we're
Mhm.
kind of poisoned with it, in the sense of fear and worry and guilt and doubt and all this stuff. And we're kind of poisoned with it in our mind. So
Right.
to overcome that, we need someone inside
Yes.
that's unlimited love, unlimited
Beautiful.
peace. Give yourself so much room, because even if you think you're making mistakes, there is no such thing as a mistake.
Beautiful. I just took a peek in the chat, and
Mhm.
we do have a lot of comments and questions. Is it okay to jump to that now?
Yes,
I'm just looking
absolutely.
at the clock. Okay, so I'm going to throw a couple of short ones at you, and you can respond as you, and then we have more in the chat. This is the Q&A. What causes someone to take out their anger on you for no reason? Small question. Another one, how can I stop worrying about what someone tells me? And a third one, why are some people stuck in the past and always bring up their sad situation and speak badly of someone for no reason? So those are the first three short ones.
Okay. I
Okay,
have one answer for all of it. Ready?
good.
Personality traits. That's the answer.
Mm,
We watch other people's behavior, and we feel uncomfortable or feel upset about it, or feel confused about it, or feel uncomfortable, like kind of unsettled about it, because of our personality traits. If I felt really strong and powerful in myself, let's give an example. Let's give an example. I have an example, actually. Oh, I have a good one. Okay. So years ago, even before I came to Brahma Kumaris, I was in a job. I was a nurse educator, and I had come into the hospital as the nurse educator, and I had a different idea about how to work things than the current nurse educator that I was working with. They had it split up in a certain way, and I wanted to split it up in another way. And my way was actually more personal. The other one's way wasn't. So I just came in and I just started acting the way I thought was right. And I got confronted like in my face. This person was yelling at me in my face and saying, this is unwanted, you're not wanted, you didn't mean to, how dare you come in and bring your ideas and act a certain way and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, it didn't bother me at all. And I'll tell you why. I was totally clear that I didn't do anything wrong. I was totally clear that I meant no harm. And all I could see at that moment was he was afraid. This person was afraid. And all I needed to do was be very calm and respectful.
Yeah.
And what I did was I said, okay, okay. Like everything that he said, I just said, okay, okay. He totally calmed down and we became like the best friends.
Mm.
And he actually turned over to what I did because I was so calm. Now you can't fake that, okay? That can't be faked. That kind of power can't be faked. And you never know when it's going to come or not. If you, that's why you can't blame yourself. If the personality trait jumps out and you're reacting, then you got to work with it after the fact. But if you keep working your meditation and the everyday practice, then maybe you will be able to be peaceful in those situations and really become that transformation. So the answer to the questions are it's their personality traits that are making them do it. So you just have to look at why you feel uncomfortable and keep working on that.
And maybe not take it personally. Yeah, we have a comment here that leads right into what you're talking about. Michelle, who alternates emceeing with me, said, can you speak to the power of silence, of not having to prove your point? There is an expression to, quote, let the other person win, even though you didn't recognize that the other person may be misinformed. Isn't there more power in that, of letting that person go in front of you?
Wow.
Thank you,
I'm going to tell a
Michelle.
secret. I'm going to tell a secret now. Okay.
Okay,
This
we're
is a
ready.
really good secret. Okay. If you don't need to win, you win. So if you can give up the need to prove your point or win, then you win. And I'll give an example. So let's say someone is angry, like this example that I'm talking about. All I did was say, okay, okay, validate everything he said, even though it was totally wrong, totally ridiculous, totally angry, totally. I wasn't reacting to any of that. I was validating the person. I have another example. Take 2 seconds. I'll make it really quick. I was doing a meditation class at work in my office. And it was quiet. We were all meditating. And the clerk came in and started complaining about everything she was doing outside. She was totally interrupting the class. I mean, her behavior was completely inappropriate. She totally interrupting the class. And I was aware that I had to do something. And I was also aware that the students were watching me, you know? So what I did was I just got really quiet, which is the power of silence. I got really, really quiet and I'm listening to the soul talk, listening to her talk and I realized as I'm listening what she really needed. And this is the secret. If you're quiet, you'll be able to hear what they actually need, and then you can give it. So I'm listening to her talk, and I heard what she needed was to be validated.
Yes.
She just needed to be validated. And so I said, wow, you did so much work with that veteran. Wow, I'm so glad you did that. Thank you so much for your help. She goes, oh, okay, bye. And she just walked out. So if we can get quiet enough and stable enough and peaceful enough inside not to react, I mean, if you're already reacting, the horse is already out of the corral. So then you got to use your self-love and work with yourself after. But as you continue to build up power, you'll learn that you can just be quiet and learn how to listen for someone. And if you cannot need to win and not need to prove your point and be able to what we say like bow down, like bow underneath that ego that's manifesting itself, then you win, or love wins, let's say. Peace
Yes.
wins.
Right. Thank you. So that's beautiful. Before we go into the meditation commentary that you've agreed to do, right?
Yes.
I just have three lovely little comments. Sherry said, Om Shanti, good to hear from you. Sister Sherry from Orlando, that is. And Michelle said, I think, no, Sherry said, I love this, Sister Anne. Okay. And with that,
Oh,
yes.
so
So
sweet.
would you be kind enough to lead us in one of those lovely, we'll pretend it's early morning and we're uncluttered with the day's events. And would you take us out maybe just a couple of minutes?
Sure.
Thank you.
So let's just sit still in our chair. Let the body relax. The body is functioning on its own. The senses are functioning on their own. So I don't need to pay attention to them right now. Just watch your breath and bring yourself into this feeling of presence, being present in the moment. And just reflecting for a moment on the main idea of the class, that I am in my heart, beautiful, peaceful, powerful being. My nature is to be positive and happy. I have love for everyone, including myself, and I may forget it, but that's okay, because in my heart, that is always there. So as I sit in silence for these few moments, just reflect inside yourself and try to create that safe space in your mind for a moment. Totally silent and peaceful. And within the safe space, beautiful, unlimited, supreme being, both points of light, souls, spiritual being. My awareness is totally beyond the senses, time, and space. And I'm naturally seated, powerful, silent presence, my own presence, and the presence of the Supreme. This is my most natural, most authentic. Purity and peace. Just notice, just for one more moment, what other feelings arise. Maybe love, maybe joy, maybe a feeling of power, stability, self-respect, pure pride, worthiness. And in the morning when I wake up, I can set my mind in this way, remembering who I am, who I belong to, and then letting that awareness impact my perception and my actions throughout the day. And I'm going to give myself this gift of self-care and self-love. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. You are a beautiful, peaceful, powerful being. And it's been delightful sharing the evening with you. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. I think that you've made it very accessible. You've given everyone a lot of tools, a method that they can go home with. And on their behalf, I'm going to thank you for that. Okay, so I only have one short announcement. I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming and listening, and lots of love from the heart to everyone. Thank you.
So I'm going to tell you all not to miss next Thursday, because the topic is Shakti, the ultimate power. So if you want to find out what that is, you have to come. And I will tell you that the speaker, Sister Jasmine from the Caribbean, is full of energy and has a lot to say about Shakti. So we hope we'll see you next week. And thank you for coming tonight. Om Shanti, everyone. Have a good week. Peaceful week.
Om Shanti, everyone. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Louise. It was wonderful. So everybody, see you next week. Have a peaceful week. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Brother Eric. Om Shanti.